Oh yeah, what's going on, Game Weepers? This is Coach Cheeks, and in today's video, we're going to be revealing the listed changes that are going to hit the Rift in 12.11. So all of the champions getting buffed and nerfed, and all of the items and runes that are going to be hit as well, because the durability patch 12.10, it's really changed the meta. And from that patch, some champions have become really OP, some items have become really OP, so Riot are looking to jab a few of these, but they're also looking to buff some champions and some classes who aren't doing particularly well at the moment. So this video will fill you in on who and what is getting changed, and also make sure, guys, if you want to master any of the roles in the game, if you want to master any of the champions, if you just want to get better and hit your peak on this game, then make sure you check out the GameWeep website, linked down below in the description and comment section, because our challenger players and coaches from around the world upload so many videos a week for our subscribers. So join thousands of other summoners, get signed up, and let's get into the video. So we will start, guys, by talking about the champions who are getting buffed next patch. So first of all, let's start in the top lane, and we have 4 champions. So we have Gragas, Aurelia, Tahm Kench, and Tryndamere. And pretty much every champion who is getting buffed is doing really badly at the moment, and I guess that kind of makes sense. So for Gragas, ever since Fimbulwinter got nerfed, he hasn't been the most preferred top laner in the game. Before that, he was actually picked an awful lot, and because of the meta at the moment, if you decide to go full AP, burst damage just isn't as good anymore, and if you decide to go tanky, there's stuff in the game like Riftmaker, like Liandry's, like Conqueror, like Lethal Tempo that do really well against it. Now with Aurelia, her Q getting nerfed in 12.10, that was really bad, and also lifesteal getting nerfed generally speaking. She is a lot easier to kill, and her win rates are as low as they have ever been. Now for Tahm Kench, it's kind of a similar story to Gragas. There's a lot of stuff in the game that just does very well against you, and if you were to play Tahm Kench as a support, because of all the enchantresses getting picked, you get hard counted by pretty much all of them. There's less to actually peel in the game at the moment because there is less engage, so Tahm's already fallen off too. Now Tryndamere is the other top laner getting nerfed, and Tryndamere is pretty terrible at the moment. Bruisers have become really the cream of the crop, so if you're playing against a bruiser with a death stance, maybe a bramble vest, or if you're diving into a team fight, into a Lulu, into a Janna, it's very difficult to make Tryndamere work, not only in the side lane, but also in team fights if you decide to do it. Now as far as the junglers getting buffed, we had 3 of these being Lee Sin, Nunu, and Xin Zhao. Now for Lee Sin and Xin Zhao, these 2 champions are Gore Drinker champions, and we'll get into that very soon as well. And because Gore Drinker really isn't that good anymore, because these champions, if you're engaging first, you're just going to get peeled off and you will die straight away. So Xin Zhao and Lee Sin are super bad, but they are buffing a champion, well, Nunu, who's actually doing okay. So it will be interesting to see what the buff to Nunu is. Now as far as the mid lane, we have Ryze and we have Sylas, and thank goodness, hopefully I don't have to make any more tier lists with an actual Ryze tier, because he's that bad. So maybe 12.11 will address some of Ryze's issues. Ever since they really nerfed tank Ryze, he has been toilet tier. And for Sylas, this bursty theme continues because you want to be jumping in there. You don't deal enough damage now to really threaten the enemy backline. So even if you do scale well and your cooldowns go down, doesn't really matter. Now as far as the AD carries go, there are 3 getting buffed, and all of these, to be honest, seem justified. So we have Aphelios, Caitlyn, and then Samira. Now for Aphelios and Caitlyn, well, these 2 champions are just very difficult to make work in YOLO queue, and they're really just not as good as the best AD carries. So if we think of Lucian, Vayne, Kog'Maw at the moment, they are by far the most favored AD carries. And then we also have Samira getting buffed, and again it goes back to this theme of enchantresses getting picked in the bot lane and being good. Because if you're picking an engager like Leona, like Nautilus, like Rell, like Alistar, these champions just don't fit the meta at the moment. So a champion like Samira, who really wants CC next to her so she can proc her passive and actually get in there and stack her style stacks, it's just a pretty bad patch. Now for your supports, we have Rakan and Taric getting buffed. And for Rakan, because you want to engage, it doesn't really lead to much, if anything. And as for Taric, it's a bit like Tahm Kench. You might be a great peeling champion, but what are you peeling at the moment? Really nothing. So if the enemy wants to pick Leona or a Nautilus, for sure you can pick Taric, but they're mostly going to pick Lulu, Janna, Nami, these enchantresses. Now for the champion nerfs, let's start in the top lane, and we have 4 of these: Gwen, Lilia, Olaf, and Swain. Now Gwen was picked an awful lot of MSI recently, and I know that was on the old patch, but even in 12.10 she's technically better because the game is more scaling. That's when she can really pop off, so this nerf does seem warranted. Now we also have Lilia, who's getting nerfed specifically for the top lane. In Lilia, if you're going Liandry's with Demonic Embrace, which you probably will most of the time, or if you're getting a Frozen Heart, which is a great cut to attack speed champions like Jax or Aurelia, Lilia is doing extremely well. Then we also have Olaf, and pretty much exactly the same thing, doing extremely well. Ever since he got changed, he's really been the king of the top lane. And then we have Swain, bit like Lilia, building Liandry's Anguish into Demonic Embrace. It's too good. There is so much HP in the game, and these 2 items, the tick damage, the sustained damage, the DPS, it's too much to handle. Now as far as the junglers getting nerfed, well, we have 4 of these as well, these being Red Kayn, Rengar, Wukong, and Master Yi. Now for Red Kayn, think about it, with Death Stance, with Conqueror, fights being more drawn out, it's perfect for Red Kayn. Now as for Rengar, ever since this champion really got changed a few patches ago, he's been killing it, and even in 12.10 where champions might be tankier, he is still performing at a very high level according to the win rates, so Rengar getting nerfed, it makes sense as well. Now Wukong is also on this list, and Wukong is a Divine Sunderer abuser. And why is Divine Sunderer so good? Well, because of the spell blade damage in the Sheen. Against tankier enemies, you shred them, and because you're a Conqueror champion as well. To be honest, this champion is a top 3 champion in the game, and if we want to see a bit more variety, I think this nerf is definitely warranted. And last up, we have Master Yi, because if you're building Kraken Slayer or Blade of the Rune King or Ginsu's, it doesn't matter. One of these true damage on-hit attack speed items, you shred everyone on the Rift at the moment. This is why Master Yi, particularly in lower elos, has a super high win rate and is banned an awful lot because, well, who wants to play against the Wuju Bladesman in 12-10? Now, as for the mid lane, we have Talia, who's getting nerfed, been really good ever since the changes came in a couple of patches ago, and then we have Veigar, who's, well, just been so good for the entirety of Season 12, so to be honest, this should open up a bit more variety in the mid lane, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, as for the AD carries, well, there's just one who's getting nerfed, this being Kog'Maw, and let's be honest, is anyone going to contest this? Kog is boasting the highest win rate out of all the AD carries right now, and it's because the game is going later, and because Enchantresses are back on the menu, so we're talking Janna, Lulu, Yuumi, these type of champions, they just pair so well with Kog, and because you're an on-hit champion, particularly with your Bio Arcane Barrage, all of the items that might work with you, so Ginsu's, Kraken Slayer, Blade of the Rune King, he is just in such a strong position. Now, for the supports who are getting nerfed, we have Brand and then we have Senna. So Brand is another one of those Liandry's Anguish abusers, and then we have Senna, well, because she scales so well, and is also exploiting the Umbral Glaive buff from a couple of patches ago. This allows you to kill those wards as a very quick early item spike, so Senna is getting nerfed alongside Brand. Now, as for the champion adjustments, we have one in the mid lane and one AD carry in the mid laner. This is Fizz, and for the AD carries, this is Zeri. And I think Zeri has the potential in 12-10 and 12-11 and so on to be really good, because she's a scaling champion and works so well with champions who can peel her. So champions like Lulu, champions like Yuumi, these Enchantresses, it's a very nice combination, but we'll have to wait and see what these changes exactly are. And now let's breeze through the items and the system buffs and nerfs that are in the game. So as far as the mythic items go, Everfrost, Crown of the Shattered Queen, Hextech Rock Belt, and Nine Harvester, these AP mythics, well, Riot is saying that they're rebalancing them. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here, because Liandry's, as far as the AP mythics go, is clearly the standout, maybe with Riftmaker in there as well. So this should be a boost to bursty champions, and also champions we've mentioned like Sylas, who are struggling because Everfrost is just getting outclassed. Now we have Gore Drinker, which is getting buffed, which is nice. So for champions like Lee Sin, J4, Xin Zhao, who we've mentioned, this should be good. And staying with the bruiser items, Blade of the Rune King is also getting buffed, and to be honest, I'm not really sure why. Even though it might cost a bit, it's very good in the meta. So when an item like Bork gets buffed for champions like Jax, for champions like Master Yi or Ashe, any AD carrier or attack speed based champion, you guys should be licking your lips. Now as far as the lethality items go, we have Duskblade, Eclipse, and Prowler's Claw, so these mythics, these are getting buffed because assassins are weak across the board. But Riot have said that they're being careful to not return too much burst, and they're also looking to reduce incentives for fighter builds on assassins, so champions like Talon and Kha'Zix at the moment are opting for Gore Drinker rather than these lethality mythics. Now staying with lethality, we have Axiom Arc that's getting buffed as well, and also Serpent's Fang, for the same reasons. Now as far as the tank items go, Balmy Cinder is getting buffed, which means that Frostfire, Chemtank, and Sunfire Aegis, the 3 tank mythics, these are also getting buffed, and there are lots of items that are getting buffed too in terms of those tanky champions. So we have Steris Gage, Randuin's Omen, Spirit Visage, Abyssal Mask, Knight's Vow, and then Zeke's for all you supports out there. So this is going to make tanks better. And you might be thinking, but this is a durability meta. Yes, it is, but that doesn't mean tanks are good. It really means that bruisers are good, and that just happens to be the case in 12.10, so 12.11 is looking to address that. Now, as far as the nerfs in 12.11, what we know so far is that the AP sustained mythics, so Liandry's Anguish and Riftmaker, these two are getting nerfed, and honestly, no surprises here, seems completely justified, but this might be too much for some champions who are getting nerfed who actually do build these. So for champions like Lilia, Swain, Kayn, Brand, they might get hit a bit too hard, so we'll have to wait and see what this actually does. Now, the only other mythic that's getting nerfed in 12.11, this is Kraken Slayer, and like I mentioned for Blade of the Rune King, if you're going Jax, Master Yi, Ashe, anyone who can make use of Kraken, the item is just dealing so much DPS because champions are tankier, and Riot have stated here that they want to better balance sustained item patterns, so if you want to go Shield Bow or Gale Force instead of Kraken Slayer, you will have those options hopefully. And also alongside Kraken Slayer, Lethal Tempo, the Keystone, is getting nerfed, and really when I look at this, I think of Master Yi, you might think of Jax, you might think of Kog'Maw, any attack speed based champion, because you're more than likely going to get to 12 stacks and the extra range, it's too good in the current meta. Now as far as the other items, well, we have 3 of these that are getting hit. So we have Umbral Glaive, and Umbral Glaive, because it's so cheap now and it's a very nice early game spike, especially for champions who are actually good in 12.10. So if we think of Graves, if we we think is center. I've even seen Jins rush this. It's very strong at the moment, and because of the passive, you can kill more wards more often. Riot have said that the item is denying a tad too much vision, so Umbral Glaive is getting nerfed. And the last two items getting nerfed, well, these are really related to the durability meta, these being more of Malmortius and Death Stance. And honestly, thank goodness, about time, because these two items are just so broken and have been ever since 12.3 when they got changed. And Riot have said here that these items have been strong since the fighter changes, tapping them down a bit after seeing how they landed. So it will be interesting to see exactly what these changes are. Will it mean that the champion's building them, so all the fighters and bruisers in the top lane will be worse off? Are we going to go more towards Steris Gauge and these type of items? And the other nerf that's hitting the Rift guys in 12.11, this is to the tower damage. So Riot have stated that outer turrets are hitting too hard, they're leaving the others for now. So the first hit turrets in top, mid, and bot lane, the actual damage if you're looking to dive a champion or just break a tower, it's not going to deal half your HP anymore, which honestly is probably a good thing because they are very scary at the moment. And the final change we have to talk about, guys, this is a system adjustment to Grievous wounds. So it's going from 30 to 50%, which was already nerfed before, to 25% to 40%, but Riot have stated that items will be compensated appropriately, so overall the power of the item will be neutral. So whether they're giving a bit more attack damage in Executioners or a bit more AP in Oblivion Orb, we'll have to wait and see, but those were the champion buffs, the nerfs, the system buffs and nerfs, guys, and adjustments, of course, for 12.11. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the listed changes. Would you want to see another champion in there? Can you believe that one champion is getting nerfed already? Leave your thoughts down below. I would love to know what you guys think. And as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future Season 12 uploads. And if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like down below. Until tomorrow's video, this has been Coach Cheeks. Peace.